Okay, meeting call to order. Roll call. Mr. Albro.
Present.
Ms. Calderon. Here. Mr. DaCosta. Ms. Coffinger. Here. Mr. Lombardi.
Here.
Mr. Luna. Ms. Ryan.
Here.
Vice President Dunn.
Here.
President Gomez.
Here.
Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board statements. In accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, the New Milford Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Borough Hall and in the New Milford Public Library. Notices have been sent to the record in the Twin Borough News. The board announces that under its long-standing policy, it will not discuss in public any comments made by members of the public concerning individual staff members. At this time, please be advised that all cell phones and electronic devices are to be turned off. Meetings of the board are open to the public and all members of the community should feel free to participate. Before coming to the board, the chain of command should be followed. There are two portions of the meeting reserved for comments from the public. The first at the beginning of the meeting for agenda items only, and the second at the end of the meeting for other items. Issues raised by the public may or may not be responded to by the board, but all comments will be considered. The board requests that all members of the public be mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Due to confidentiality and legal rights afforded by the state of New Jersey, members of the public are asked to not speak negatively or in a derogatory manner about any employee of the board or any student. Committee of the Whole, I seek a motion for approval of minutes September 19th work session, September 20th regular meeting. Need a second?
I wasn't here on the 20th.
Okay, Nicole wasn't here on the 20th.
I was not here.
Kate,
I'm here, but I'm second.
you're second. Are you
I was not here the 19th.
good? Seconded by Cheryl Calderon. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, student board representative report, Mackenzie Forte.
So hello everyone, I hope everyone's having a great October so far. So I have some student council updates from the last meeting. So I'm happy to announce that our senior class won the first Spirit Week of the year. Our fall Spirit Week was super successful. We had 67% of the entire school participate in dress-up days. And we're excited to aim even higher for participation for the Winter Spirit Week. Also, students from each grade level participated in the Spirit Week pep rally. So we had grade level dances, relay races, and banner making. So we got to show off our creativity. And it was a great day that brought our student body closer together. Also, our Roaring 20 themed homecoming dance was a huge success. The dance was completely sold out in tickets. The food at the dance was amazing. We're very thankful to Soprano's Pizza for always taking care of us at school events. Also, students and teachers really rose to the occasion dressing up in Roaring 20's attire. We're very thankful to everyone who helped make our homecoming dance a success as well. And moving into late fall, our student council is preparing for upcoming winter events, and most importantly, our Martin Luther King Day Assembly.
All right, thank you. Anyone have any questions for Mackenzie?
The banners that you created, are they displayed somewhere or?
They were hanging in the gym. I think they've been taken down now, but a couple might still be up.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Mackenzie. You do not have to stay.
For your senior night.
Thank you.
Right, it's the senior night for the band.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Are you excited?
Very.
This is a busy time for you. Why don't you tell the public what goes on in the lives of seniors in this time of the school year?
Honestly, it's a lot of college applying, which is pretty normal. So just like doing the Common App and writing the essay, that's what I've been trying to focus on. So it's a lot of college applying, but also still like doing all the activities that we normally do, like I'm in cross country and in the band. So it's kind of hard to balance, but it's also fun to do. Like it's like our one last hurrah, because like it's our last year of doing all our fun stuff.
And there's something else you're doing.
Oh, also the play.
Oh, do you want to tell us a little bit about, without revealing any?
Yes. So the play is called She Kills Monsters, and kind of like the title, there's a character named Agnes who's an average cheerleader, and her sister is named Tilly, and her sister really liked Dungeons and Dragons. So in summer, she wants to learn more about her sister, so she's kind of transported into a Dungeons and Dragons game, and she kills monsters. And it's set in the 90s, so
And
very
it's-
fun.
And it's the Young Adventurers edition.
Yes, Young Adventure.
That's a long time ago. the
Yeah, the
90s.
90s. Very long time ago.
Well, thank you.
We know you're busy, so you're welcome to stay, but you're free to leave.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Mackenzie. Okay, presentation, spring 2023 NJLSA ELA Math Science Report.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight I have our this year's assessment report, which includes our performance from the spring 2023 NJSLA in ELA Math and Science. I did share this digitally earlier today with the board members, so hopefully you had a chance to look at it, but there's also a printed copy available for you. Yeah, the camera should be facing the Okay, we're going to begin by looking at our performance across grade levels in the area of English language arts. And you'll see our performance from the spring is displayed in comparison to statewide performance. So just so I can help you interpret what you are seeing, across the top of the screen we have each of the performance levels. There are 5. Levels 1 through 3 are not meeting standards. Level 4 and 5 are meeting and exceeding expectations. The percentages in columns 1 through 3 should be lower, as these are students who have not yet met expectations. So we want to see a fewer number of students who have not yet met expectations. The percentages in columns 4 and 5 should be greater, as these are students who have met and or exceeded expectations. I highlighted for you some notable achievements that I'll share and sprinkle throughout tonight's presentation. Students meeting expectations, level 4 in grade 8 increased from 37% in 2022 to 47% in 2023. And students exceeding expectations, level 5, in grade 7, increased from 32% in 2022 to 44% in 2023. Okay, this slide here shows us levels 4 and 5 combined. So this is the overall percentage of students who met and exceeded expectations. In all but one grade level, the percentage of students meeting and exceeding increased from the previous year, so from 22 to 23. I just want to remind everybody that last spring 2022 is posted on the website, as well as prior years. Okay. For visual learners, here's a bar graph that displays our performance. Just some things that I want to point out to you. The light and dark green columns should be greater. These are the students, light green is meeting expectations, green is exceeding expectations. These columns reflect those students who have at least met expectations. You'll see that little burst on the screen there highlighting the red, orange, and yellow bars. So targeted interventions are really intended for students who have not yet met expectations and are provided through our tiered system of supports. Oftentimes, these interventions take place in small groups, both in and outside of the classroom. While the number of students meeting expectations has increased from the previous year, we're always looking at that dark green bar to look at how we can, ways that we can improve achievement and increase the number of students who are exceeding expectations. So every population of students is targeted. Okay, and here is the participation rate. We had a very good participation rate for English language arts. Typically, if students do not sit for the assessment, sorry, did you jump to?
Oh, that happened.
I hit something.
That happened yesterday too.
We're good. Typically, if students don't sit for the assessment, they're either absent and are afforded an opportunity to take the assessment during makeup week, and if they are absent during makeups, then they miss the assessment altogether. The participation rate on an assessment is the percentage of eligible students who actually complete the assessment. Okay, this is always one of the areas that we like to look at, our achievement and growth. So this slide shows a comparison of performance on the NJSLA in 2019, 2022, and 2023. This depicts the same grade level assessment administered to different students. Important to note that 2020 and 2021 are missing. We do not have that data because the NJSLA was suspended during the pandemic. In 2022, and you'll see this highlighted in pink, 69% of fourth graders met and exceeded expectations. That's levels 4 and 5 combined. And in 2023, 80% of fourth graders met and exceeded expectations. And in 2022, 69% of our seventh graders met expectations. And this past year, 79% of seventh graders met and exceeded expectations. Okay, here we're looking at cohort achievement and growth. This slide shows a comparison of performance on the NJSLA in 2019, 22, and 23. This depicts the same students assessed in different grade levels. So the same cohort of students over time. And again, you'll see that we are missing the 2 years that were suspended and no assessment was administered. Okay, now on to mathematics. We'll begin by looking at New Milford's performance compared to statewide performance. Again, columns 1 through 3, the numbers in the yellow boxes should be lower. These are students who have not met or exceeded. And columns 4 and 5 should be greater. The district had a fewer percentage of students not yet meeting and partially meeting expectations across all grade levels compared to statewide performance, which is always an achievement. Students meeting expectations in grade 4 increased from 48% in 2022 to 59% in 2023. Students exceeding expectations in grade 5 increased from 7% in 2022 to 14% in 2023. Students meeting expectations in grade 7 increased from 33% in 22 to 44% in 23. And students meeting expectations in geometry increased from 42% in 22 to 63% in 23. High school math is one of those areas that we've talked about quite a bit in years past. And I know that we have put a lot of supports in place, and I would like to recognize Ms. Ginley and her work with the high school department, beginning with when she first started in the position, the curriculum revisions and the updated scope and sequence. I know that they meet regularly as a team and have check-ins where they're looking at the pacing, and it seems to really reflect in some of these numbers that we're seeing here. Kudos to Shona and math teachers. Okay, here is just overall comparison of students who've met and exceeded in New Milford compared to state. The percentage of students meeting and exceeding expectations exceeded statewide performance across all grade levels. Okay, here is the bar graph. Historically, we have noted, and this is that pink arrow, a dip in performance based on the number of students meeting proficiency on the NJSLA in 5th grade upon their transition to middle school and performance on the NJSLA in 6th grade. This is an area that we continue to focus on, and it is the focus of our data analysis and targeted professional development with our consultants and teachers. It's consistent with what we've seen in the past. And again, here's the participation rate, which shows the percentage of students who were eligible and actually completed the assessment. And we had really great participation in the math assessment. Okay, achievement and growth. This slide shows performance across the 3 past years that we have data, and it depicts the same grade level assessment administered to different students. In 22, I'm just going to say 22 and 23 because it's a mouthful. In 22, 59% of 4th graders met and exceeded expectations, and in 23, 69% of 4th graders met and exceeded those expectations, which is a significant increase. In 22, we had 45% of 5th graders meet and exceed, and in 23, that number increased to 56% of 5th graders. And I want to again draw your attention to geometry. 68% of geometry students met and exceeded, and in 2023, we had 82% of our geometry students meeting and exceeding. And here is our cohort achievement and growth, showing a comparison over the past 3 testing years, depicting the same cohort of students tested in different grade levels. This presentation will be posted online following tonight's report. And now we'll look at our performance in science. So for those who are just a reminder or not familiar, we only test in science in 3 grade levels. It's at the end of grade 5, end of grade 8, and end of grade 11. The percentage of 5th grade students deemed proficient and advanced increased from 25% in 22 to 30% in 23. The percentage of 8th grade students deemed proficient and advanced increased from 15% in 22 to 19% in 23. And the percentage of 11th grade students deemed proficient and advanced increased from 18% in 22 to 30% in 23. The performance levels for science are a bit different. There are only 4 performance levels. Levels 1 and 2 are minimal and limited. Not our terminology, it is what the department, defines the performance levels as. And levels 3 and 4 would be our meeting and exceeding, which are proficient and advanced. And here is overall meeting and exceeding overall performance across those 3 grade levels. Okay, so we're continuing to look closely at how we can increase the overall number of students meeting proficiency on the NJSLA in science. I feel like this is also one of those things that we've talked about the last couple administrations. This was actually a point of discussion earlier this morning at the Bergen County Curriculum Consortium meeting. And just about every other district is in the same boat. So we're kind of like right there alongside of the state performance. We either matched or we're slightly higher, but it is an area of focus from almost every other district. Yes.
And it's a new test. It's a relatively
It is a
new test.
relatively new test. Prior to the NJSLA in science, we had NJAS. We actually used to have NJAS in CLA and math, and that changed many years ago to the PARC assessment. And NJAS science remained for several years until, I want to say 2019 was the first administration of the new NJSLA in science. The Bourbon County Curriculum Consortium did discuss teaming together to look at this area together, determine opportunities for supporting science instruction across all grade levels, even though we only assess students in grades 5, 8, and 11. That assessment really measures expectations from the end of each of those grade levels. So kindergarten through the end of grade 5, 6th grade through the end of grade 8, and in the high school up through the end of grade 11. So they're core science courses. Here's our participation rate in the area of science. And now we are going to look at our demographic analysis by subgroups. And I included these slides for you this year here, which I thought were pretty interesting. Okay, so first we will look at subgroup race.
And can you just, or because people are listening, why it's reported this way? Why are you giving us this?
Yeah, so, well, this is required by the state of New Jersey, so all districts who take the NJSLA report out the achievement by subgroups, but it's also something that we look at internally when thinking about achievement of our own students and program and supports that we might put in place. This slide shows the distribution of achievement levels across all grade levels for subgroups, and this is in the area of English language arts. Pretty consistent compared to 2022, if you look at last year's report. And this next slide shows 22 to 23. So we're looking at a comparison of the previous year to this year. The percentage, I just want to point out here, the percentage of Hispanic students meeting and exceeding increased from 58% to 66% this past administration. Here is our distribution of achievement levels across all grades for subgroups in the area of math. And here, pretty similar compared to the 22 administration. The percentage of Black students meeting and exceeding expectations increased from 32% in 22 to 42% in 23. And all subgroups showed an increase in performance from 22 to 23. Really nice to see. And here we're looking at our distribution of achievement levels across all grade levels in science. And this slide here is showing you a comparison from 22 to 23. Again, we have some increases in our Black student population and Hispanic. Black students meeting and exceeding increased from 32% to 42%, and I'd have to pull it up on my screen. I think it's 31 and 38%. Sorry, I'm going to so it's a little smaller. And now we're going to take a look at gender. This slide shows the distribution of achievement levels across all grades for gender subgroups. And this slide shows the percentage of students in subgroups meeting and exceeding expectations from 22 to 23. Both subgroups showed an increase in proficiency from 22 to 23. Here we are looking at the distribution of achievement levels across all grades for subgroups in math, gender subgroups in math. And this is a comparison of 22 performance to 23. The performance of the female subgroup slightly increased, while the performance of the male subgroup remained the same. So at least subgroups showed an increase in proficiency from 22 to 23. And we also break out the data by program. This helps us look at different interventions and services and supports that are in place for students who will receive specialized programs. This slide that you're looking at here shows the distribution of achievement levels across all grades for programmatic subgroups. The programmatic subgroups are categorized by our free and reduced lunch populations, our students with 504s, our multilingual learners, which was formerly our English language learners, or ELLs, our special education students, and then the last batch all the way to the right is our general education population. And here we're looking at growth, so performance from 22 to 23. All but one subgroup showed an increase in proficiency from 22 to 23 in the area of ELA.
Can I address something? On this slide in particular, I noticed that the only subgroup that dropped the second year was the ELL subgroup. However, it's important to know that the other 4 subgroups are usually subgroups that the students remain in. If you're a free and reduced lunch student this year, you're likely a free and reduced lunch student next year. Same thing with special ed, general ed, or usually. However, with ELL students, when you excel in language arts literacy or in mathematics, you are then exited from the program. So then this is the most dynamic of the groups on this page, because you could likely have students with fewer language acquisition skills in that group. So it's not a fixed group the way the others can be. I just think it's important to recognize that when you do well, then you're exiting from the group. And there's no tag for formerly ELO.
Our multilingual learners take the access, and that is determined for eligibility to exit from ESL services. And that assessment actually measures students' proficiency in reading, writing, speaking, and listening, which aligns closely, obviously, with English arts. And I have that performance data to share with you later. I've shared that one already, but I included it. Okay, and here we're looking at the percentage of students in subgroups meeting and exceeding expectations across all grade levels from 22 to 23 in math. All but 2 subgroups, and again, it is the multilingual learners and students with 504s. But all other subgroups showed an increase in proficiency from 22 to 23. Sorry, I was just speaking about it, but this was the slide. I didn't do it, sorry. I'm trying to flip my pages and control the keyboard. Okay, now we are looking at science achievement levels across all grades for science performance. And this is the percentage of students meeting and exceeding from 22 to 23. All but one subgroup showed an increase, and here it is with students with 504s. Students with 504s is also could be a fluctuating population. It's not like a permanent program.
Right.
They could be temporary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I previously shared with the board the performance from the NJGPA, the Graduation Proficiency Assessment. I also shared the access for ELLs, but I did want to include it here for you this evening. The access for ELLs, or the assessment for multilingual learners, is a standardized test used to measure the English language proficiency of students whose native language is not English. It assesses students' abilities in listening, speaking, reading, and and writing to support their English language learning and academic achievement. Like I said, this was shared, but it is tied into our other data, so I wanted to include it in this presentation for when we're looking at it online. The Dynamic Learning Maps, or DLM assessment, is an alternate assessment designed for students with unique learning abilities. Those are special education students. It focuses on personalized curriculum-based instruction and uses a dynamic approach to measure student learning and growth in alignment with their individualized goals and educational needs as documented in their IEPs or individualized educational plans. You'll see on the left the performance categories and then the 3 content areas which align with the NJSLA assessment. Okay. And finally, our notable achievements were really sprinkled throughout. I think we made some really significant gains, considering that we had some tricky years during the pandemic, and instruction looked very different, but we have resumed our regular schooling and really increased our supports. Some of those are highlighted for you here. We are currently aligning the curriculum in ELA math to the new standards. This is something we also discussed in September or August. Out of the 9 content areas, 7 areas were updated in 2020 with the exception of ELA and math. Those were recently just adopted by the State Board of Education for implementation in September 24. So next September. We will be working on the curriculum revisions internally with our teachers and our specialists, and taking a look at the new standards and making revisions where needed, so that by the end of the year, students are meeting the new expectations. I'm anticipating that the assessment will be updated. I'm not sure if it will be in the spring of 2025 or the following year. Typically, they allow for a little bit of a grace period. We do have a year-long professional learning continuum that is supported by a district calendar, which is shared with all staff in the beginning of the school year, and really targets our work for Monday afternoons. So oftentimes teachers and administrators are meeting in grade level or department teams, data teams, and looking at student products, looking at results of, at this time of the year, we're looking at recent benchmarking data as another measure, and planning instruction, and planning some of those interventions that take place in those small groups that I mentioned earlier. We're continuing on with our math PD. There's also PD in the area of ELA, and I kind of went into that a lot last night, so I won't go in depth there. But we do have consultants who come into the district. We prefer that because they're working with our teachers in our classroom with our kids. I think that's really important to know, because while going out for professional development is very valuable and important, in the core areas, I think it's important for our teachers to kind of build their toolbox based on the population of students that they're working with, so that everything is transferable and realistic in terms of what they can actually, how they can intervene and work with students. We do have a continuation of Title I supports in ELA and math that is across all grade levels. We have continued implementation of a multi-tiered system of supports. ARC ESSER funds were used to support the addition of an elementary intervention specialist who is at that top, or tier 3, our most intensive level of support. know I've talked about that in the past, so students are receiving support within the classroom, sitting with their own teacher in small groups. The next layer is coming out and working with a specialist and maybe 4 or 5 other students. And then the either one-on-one or 1-on-2 ratio as the tier 3 intervention specialist. I'm hoping to have some data to share with you in an upcoming meeting to look at how that has been effective in our tiered system of supports. We are continuing with the co-teaching assignments across all grade levels. I know that the professional development that Dr. Perot has planned is kind of, it's laid out in phases. So they're further along in what they're working, the professional development that they're doing together alongside of their co-teacher. And that is going really well. That is also a very effective instructional model. We continue to use online learning platforms for skill remediation, ongoing practice, and extension. Oftentimes, these are in the area of ELA and math, so sometimes students will access level text through some of these platforms, or play math games, or drill like back fluency on some of these different platforms, which have also been somewhat funded through our ESSER funding. We continue to do targeted walkthroughs in the areas of English, language arts, and math. This is in teams of administrators. We also include sometimes teachers in those walks when we're looking at one particular content area. We've expanded the use of our benchmark assessments for data analysis and determining whether students are making meaningful progress towards the mastery of the New Jersey Student Learning Standards, and which helps us identify appropriate academic interventions. And that concludes my presentation.
Does anyone have any questions? Andrew?
The ELL percentages, 2022 said 0%. Did they not take it, or?
Can you tell me?
Page 42.
Slide 42.
Was it less than 10?
It might have
Was it
been
less
fewer
than-
than,
was it like a
it might have
fewer?
been fewer than the end, yeah.
Yeah, so I should note that. So when we are crunching these numbers, we have to be very careful to share out, that is a subgroup. So oftentimes those are fewer numbers of students, and we can't report out numbers if the population or group is less than 10.
Gotcha. And then you mentioned math having a different approach in final success. Is that something that's a template or a different approach that the ELA and science can now get a hold of and see how they did it with math and maybe?
Yeah, so this was actually an endeavor that we took on, and I think this might have also been ESSER funded, in response to the school closures and our time out of the classroom. We had our math teachers in the high school attend. We worked closely with Nancy Schultz at Conquer Math, and they went in teams with a partner who taught the same course as them, and rewrote the curriculum with Nancy's guidance, who is a guru. Yeah, she's an expert in her content and works with many districts in, I would say North Jersey, North Jersey.
Standards-driven curriculum, standards-driven assessment, standards-driven instruction.
Which is really nice because she's not teaching a program, right? She's really helping teachers develop curriculum so that students can meet expectations set forth by the standards. You know, it doesn't matter if you do one program or another. There are teachers so they were also working with other high school teachers. But I know that Shana has been very hands-on
with the math department, and one of the things that they worked closely on was that pacing. So ensuring continuity from amongst teachers who are teaching the same course and making sure that they're staying in, kind of keeping appropriate lockstep through, and also common assessments they developed, which I think has been really helpful, informative assessments. So gauging student understanding along the way rather than waiting until the end to assess and see if students got it or not. Because by assessing students more regularly and gauging their understanding, we're able to change our instruction to help fill any gaps that might be missed.
And it's been effective. And it was effective across, in particular, we looked at geometry.
Yeah.
And the numbers, and I said, who's teaching geometry last year? And like 5 different people teaching geometry. It was not one amazing teacher doing amazing things in a particular course. We had 5 different teachers who were teaching geometry and seeing the same type of
CPM.
success. And so that's really a department coming together. So I have to commend Shayna and the team, the math team, because it's not easy to do that. It's really not easy to try to pace and align yourself with other people. It's not easy to come together and agree on pacing and assessment. And they did it. It was hard work, and it's definitely paying off. We haven't seen geometry numbers like this in 15 years.
No.
And is it something that can translate to ELA and
Well,
science?
and there are things that we are doing in ELA, and I wanted to highlight that if I could. There are so many things that are happening. The consistent implementation of phonics instruction, the close attention to the work in the classroom that they're doing with the reading and writing workshop, and Coley and the professional developers from Teachers College, Columbia. The continual building of classroom libraries, which is what I'm hoping is what we are seeing in the increase in reading in the boys. Girls tend to perform better on ELA assessments than boys do. Partly because girls tend to be more drawn to books, literature, and things like that, and stories. For boys, I'm speaking in generalities here, the types of books that they like to read are different books. So we've really spent a lot of time paying close attention to diverse student libraries, having students assist us in selecting and developing classroom libraries, and making sure that we have leveled books in all of the classrooms that all of the students want to read. There has been a tremendous investment in classroom libraries, partly because of some of the ESSER funding. And so much of this good work was really funded by ESSER or ARP ESSER or whatever level, whatever round of ESSER 2, ARP ESSER.
We continue to use the title funds that I mentioned
Right.
last night.
And having the option to go school-wide on some of the supports instead of just targeting identified students allows you to grow even the students in the top groups who wouldn't be identified. Take a student who's scoring a 4, they have access to whatever strategies, professional development, and then they score the 5, but they were never targeted when you could only target certain students. So, I'm hoping that we're really gonna see another jump, but the growth, the year-over-year growth is really important.
Absolutely. That's good to see.
Everybody's working really hard.
Does anyone else have any other questions right now?
Thank you again. Sorry, I'm tempted, but I'm
This is your chance.
okay, fine. Twisting my arm. Twisting my arm. Okay, just I wanted to go back. I think there was a little bit of a discrepancy in what you were reading in your notes and what was showing on the screen. So just when we put it up on the website, maybe just.
Can you tell me which one it was?
Yeah, there was a couple where I was following along and I thought maybe, like page, I think 17, was an example where you read,
So are you looking at the slide number, or are you looking, because I have.
yeah, the slide
I
number,
have
sorry,
different
the
printout.
slide 17, yeah.
Okay,
Because I know, like, I was just following along and I noticed that there was maybe some, like, you read the state was 15%, but.
yeah, but I
it
was
18.
I was looking, when I made my notes, I was using last year's presentation to
Oh,
look at
okay.
22 performance.
Okay.
So when I referenced those other numbers, that was achievement in 22 compared to what you're seeing up on the screen,
Okay,
in
all right,
23.
yeah, I just wanted to double check that. Okay, so,
which is also available on the website.
yeah. What do you think there are any lingering effects of kind of how COVID has affected the kids, right? Remote learning aside, but just like socially, like do you think that, do you see anything in the testing that reflects that, one, there's still lingering effects of that really kind of drastic situation that they were in? And if so, like, do you see an end to that, or is there a way that we can help that kind of transition, like, you know, kind of help get past it, right? Because I don't know, you know, I every time I look at this, obviously, like, these are, you know, the trend is great.
Continuing to go up.
100%, the trend is great, but I also try to take, you know, keep in mind that we've met quite a few challenges, you know, with COVID and then also with like budget and things like that. So one thing is, do you see any lingering effects of what COVID? And then the other question I'm going to ask after that, just so that you know, is do you see potential impact by some of the things that we had to deal with the budget changes, just moving forward, or have we accounted for that in all in the cuts that were made? Where I know that you made a really, really concerted effort to make sure that it didn't affect the children, right? So I just kind of want to discuss that a little bit.
Is the question about COVID for me or
First,
for Lauren?
either of you, like really kind of, you know, is it over?
Yeah, so I think with well, a few things. I think that any gaps as a result of school closures or changes in the learning environment are not unique to New Milford.
Right.
I think this is something felt by the larger educational community. You probably read and probably not read and hear about it as much, but it is still something that we talk about regularly. I think one of the things that we did really great in New Milford, we were really strategic with our federal funding, starting with CARES, ESSER2, ARPA ESSER, to make sure that that was really targeting students and going back to increased supports and services so that we were kind of in front of that, which I'm really proud of. That being said, our ESSER, our last pot, is going to expire. It needs to be liquidated by, I believe, October 13th of 2024. So around this time next year. Do you want to, do you want to add it?
I will. I just want to
Yeah.
give you a chance first. I think that, I agree with everything that Lauren said, and I do think that we are seeing remnants of COVID socially is where I see it the most in the district, where students are less mature than their peers in that same grade, let's say 2 years ago, you know, before.
And that's everywhere. Probably.
Yeah, right, and I think it's everywhere. Definitely the emphasis on the social and emotional piece, and not so much behavior as it is just like you'll see a group of students and you will think that they're younger than they are by their behavior. So it's a little off, and probably because they weren't playing with their friends for a year and a half. You know, I mean, I don't know if that has something to do with it. Their increased attraction to the technology, the independent technology, the cell phone, the iPad, the isolation that brings, the weird, I'll say weird because I don't have a technical word for some of the things, the offbeat things that kids are doing with their technology that you're like, well, you know you're not supposed to be doing this. You know, so I see more of the social piece with COVID and students being a little bit more withdrawn. quieter, don't really, aren't communicating maybe as much, and so, you know, we're working on those things. Academically, I think because we've all been in this boat together, let's just say New Jersey and how things were handled here, right? We were all in the boat together, and so I think if it's academically, if someone wants to say you're 6 months behind or 12 months behind, it's like, well, you're 6 months or 12 months behind who? The other kids who are also 6 months or 12 months behind. But I mean, I feel like I do not see, for example, in running records or benchmarking, that our students are dramatically behind. So our first graders are reading where first graders have normally been reading. You always have kids who struggle, you know, but I don't see it so much academically as much at this point. But like things like that 6th grade, that transition into 6th grade, I think that's more of a social thing that's impacting academics than it is necessarily an academic thing. So we've talked about that, working on the transition from 5th grade to 6th grade, working on the transition from 8th grade into 9th grade, and ironically the sophomore year has always been its own beast, hence, you know, sophomoric. It's the only grade in high school that's got its own, I guess that's an adjective, right? Because of the uniqueness of that grade. So it's kind of.
What about science? I know that we talked a little bit last year about the lack of being able to sit in labs with kids. Is that going to continue to be reflected in kind of our?
Yeah, so, you know, having to shift from an inquiry-based hands-on science in the classroom, which we're really excited about with the FOSS kits and all the, and then you went totally digital with science, you know, went back to packets during, you know, COVID. And then even when you were returned to school, you know, you weren't working necessarily in groups. Everybody was apart, everybody was behind plexi and so you couldn't, even when you came back, it was still a little delayed in getting into the science. So now we're back in the groove, and we're doing more science at the elementary schools. We're bringing in professional developers. There were some changes at the high school level in science, and they're using new curriculum here at the high school now. You know, our middle school science has always been strong, and the kids are really involved and they love it and super hands-on. I believe we have the right programs in place, and the right professional development that we've had in place in science. I think it's just a matter of getting the kids back in the groove.
And then that secondary question I had about what can we expect, and you know, I don't know how much.
Oh, you asked about the cuts.
Right, I mean, what can we expect for next year? What can we do?
Well, until we really know what our funding is going to be, we won't know, you know, what kind of challenges we're facing. There are already increased costs after January with the increased cost of healthcare that's going up. That's beyond what was, you know, anticipated. We probably will be increased costs to the teachers who want to remain, let's say, on the Horizon plan. So they're more likely to switch to the state plan, and then when they switch to the state plan, that costs the district more. So there will be a variety of increases after January 1, which are part of this budget year, and then roll into the following budget year. What I tried to do when we made our staffing decisions was to look at class size very, very carefully. And we have done that, and I have verified, and I have walked every single classroom, and I've counted heads in every single room, just making sure that, for sure, we do not have classes of 30. I mean, our classes at the elementary school are 22, 21, 23. The older classes, there are some that are 24. We do not have any classes that are, you know, where the kids feel like, oh my gosh, there was a reduction in a section here, and now we have 34 kids in this room. There's none of that. None of that. The interventions we still have in place. The ELL, the special education, that's all still in place. So we got a little creative And in some places, if a person retired or resigned, we chose not to refill that spot, so that wasn't really something that was necessarily felt as much as it was if you have an elimination of a person. We are still sharing music teachers and things like that. That really hasn't changed very much. You know, if we had the opportunity to increase our staff in FTEs at all, I would do it based on the numbers. I would look where is the need the greatest, where are the classes the largest, where are the challenges the greatest, what does the data tell us where we need more support, and then I would look to put supports in those places.
Anyone else? Thank you, Lauren. Superintendent of Schools report, Daniel Shanley.
Thank you, nice job, Lauren, appreciate it. I know I'm quite familiar with those reports, I used to do them myself. They're terrible. It's a lot to prepare. Okay, so I'd like to share some of the good news. For those of you who weren't here, I had a small report last night. This is my good news report, and the contribution from my team always makes it fun. So let's start with Berkeley Street School. Our SEL walk-a-thon last Friday was a huge success. The children and staff enjoyed taking part in this community building activity, focusing on promoting well-being. It's amazing to see how many laps the students completed, and they really loved earning motivational bracelets and beads. Thank you very much to the Berkeley PTO for working with our school counselor to bring so much joy to Berkeley. And thanks also for coordinating our pumpkin and mum sale. And they really lucked out with the weather on both days. I had the opportunity to attend Berkeley's PTO meeting last month. They invited me. That was a lot of fun. It was great to see the library packed, and if the other PTOs invite me to a meeting, I will do my best to make sure that I go to each PTO at least once. Science explorers were at Berkeley this week, and the children were conducting hands-on science experiments aligned to their curriculum. I saw something today which was a very, very large, it started in a cup about this big, a little plastic cup about this big, and once the science did its thing, it was like a foam expansion that was like this big mushroom cloud that came. It was so cool. And every second grader got to take that home today at Berkeley Street School. So to the parents, I'm sorry that will be gracing your living room, but keep it there for a little while. This program in particular was funded through a Title I grant that we received, and we're pleased to have been able to provide our students these opportunities to grow as little hands-on scientists. The first parent literacy workshop, which was actually for both elementary schools but hosted at Berkeley, was a huge success. Participant feedback was really overwhelmingly positive, and they're looking forward to the next event, which will focus on math. Okay, I have Gibbs here. All students in grades K through 5 participated in a live assembly put on by the Pushcart Players last week. The play was called, okay, here's my Spanish, Cuentos del Arbole, and it's a bilingual musical drawn from Spanish and Latin American folklore. The play is designed to bring Spanish to life and to make theater accessible to our students, especially those for whom English is a second language. At David E. Owens, they had a former principal and expert coach from Robin, that's the SEL group that we've brought to, that our funding has brought to the middle school. And that coach came in to talk to all of the classes at the middle school about self-regulation and the importance of being able to create strategies to balance our emotions over time. She also discussed belonging, bias, and acceptance. And this individual, Ms. Collins, she was a former principal in the Chicago Public Schools, and her message was heard by all of our students and seemed to be very well received. Our students also benefited at the middle school from a presentation on cyber civics given by the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office. The goal was for students to understand the impact of a digital footprint and the lasting nature of any items shared through social media. So kind of some of the things that I was saying are a challenge we are definitely working to address. They also discussed digital addiction and the importance of being able to disconnect. As a school, they have benefited from Tech-Free Tuesday program where everyone has agreed to shut down and stay away from technology during their lunch and recess time at the middle school. They've been hearing and seeing more face-to-face discussion, and this was part of our National Violence and Vandalism Awareness Week. At the high school, congratulations are in order to New Milford High School Student of the Month recipients for September of 2023. We're very proud of your accomplishments. In 9th grade, Juan Martinez Arenas. In 10th grade, Mateo Surik. In 11th grade, Gabriel Fernandez Severio. And in 12th grade, Amaya Carruthers. Congratulations to senior Ashley Chalik for being chosen as a member of the 2024 Elks Peer Leadership Conference Youth Staff. Our last student to be honored in this role was in 2012. So congratulations to Ashley. Sophia Gonzalez has received a full scholarship to FIT's pre-college program for interior design. Ms. Venezia would like to congratulate her for all of her efforts. Shout out to Ms. Venezia for her support and work with her students. October 12th, the following students participated in the first ever Safety Ambassador Training Program. The Safety Ambassador Program is an educational project that trains high school students to share their safety lessons with first grade students at both Gibbs and Berkeley elementary schools. And this peer-driven program was developed to continue the education on safety management both within the school environment and within the New Milford community. Our 23-24 school ambassadors are, Vance Thomas, Brooke Seda, Kiel Zafari, Jenna Lubnewski, Abia Qureshi, Frankie Carbonaro, Isabella Quijada, Natalia Pulowski, I'm sorry, Natalia, and Alexa Fried Mandarino. So shout out to Ms. Zacher for continuing this activity and training the students to train the little ones. We also would like to thank Ms. McIver, our new counselor in guidance, and Ms. Peter Friend for their help in this program. Okay, so Dylan Harris, Grace Lampman, Hunter Rezis, and Kiera McClaskey, under the direction of Mrs. Berenstein, performed at the Colloquium Musicum New Jersey concert series. And they represented themselves professionally, beautifully, with talent, hard work, and class. So proud of them. The Ramapo College Holocaust and Genocide Center and one of our former grads, Natalie Sewer, who was one of my academy students, received a scholarship from the center for her minor in human rights and genocide studies. Thanks to Mrs. Tambucio for sharing this great news. In athletics, on Tuesday, November 21st, Bill Hartney, longtime coach, contributor, site supervisor, substitute teacher, among the many other things, including our friend and confidant at games and events, will be honored at the 58th annual YMCA dinner. He will be receiving the Thomas Delatorre Special Achievement Award, one of the highest honors given out at this dinner. This award represents values, integrity, and sportsmanship for which Coach Delatorre and the YMCA believe in. Over the past few years, we have honored various New Milford student athletes and coaches at the YMCA dinner, making this dinner very special to us. So congratulations, Coach Hartney. This past Friday night, we celebrated the 1972 state championship football team. The cheerleaders, color guard, band members, and football players were called out to the field at halftime. 22 members of the program were in attendance, and 2 of them came out to midfield for the coin toss. They sent a very nice thank you to the district for the recognition. Our second annual New Milford Day went very well. We managed to get it off the ground after those rains. Special thank you to the borough, junior football and cheer, the rec department, and all of the many volunteers, especially parents, who helped make the change to Kennedy Field a success. A reminder that the New Milford Hall of Fame dinner is on Monday, November 20th at Macaluso's. Tickets are still available, with the invite available on the website under the athletic page. 2 other events took place in the last month. Our first annual Walk for Apraxia and Hewer Night, with alumni soccer players playing a special co-ed alumni soccer game before the regular game. Each event raised money for their respective causes, and a special thank you to each of the families, the volunteers, and our Night Reach students who were at both events. In the technology department, in September, the tech department distributed new Acer Chromebooks to 1st, 5th, and 9th grade students. We've also offered new Acer Chromebooks to 12th graders. Durable cases were purchased to, and fit for the 5th and 6th grade students to offset the common breakages that occur at these grade levels. This school year, 32 classrooms have received new full classroom technology setups, equipped with a digital display board and Chromebooks, and removing most of the dated desktops. In addition, 30 Acer desktops were installed in high school room 337, which is the business classroom, and we have a brand new Mac lab downstairs in the photography, digital media, video suites that we have down there. Those are some technology updates, and on Monday, October 23rd, work is going to begin on the technology upgrades that will be made in the auditorium, which is also from ESSER funding. Almost all of the technology upgrades were ESSER funded. The vendor that is doing the upgrades in the theater is Generation Brands. The good thing about those technology upgrades is that it does allow us to use the theater for a variety of things, including renting out the space for a revenue source, and then when we have our own events, not having to rent the kind of lighting and sound and things like that that do cost us money. So that is a wrap up of the good news. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for Danielle? Okay, so Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction Report, Lorna Dockstuff.
I have no formal report. I just want to thank again the teachers for attending and hosting sessions at our literacy night.
Okay. Business Administrator Report, Stephanie Pichara.
I don't really have a report, thank you, this evening, but Mrs. Shanley asked me to share some pictures of the renovation that was done. It was started over the summer, and the setup is not complete. So, but before I do that, because you mentioned the state health benefit plan increase, I just wanted to let the board know that the state benefit committee finalized the state employee health benefit plan renewal for January 1, 2024. The total is a 6.3% increase, but the breakdown for plan design is a bit broader than that. The committee chose scenario 3 of the choices that they had, so that means that the New Jersey Direct 10 and 15 plan is going to increase 11%. Educators Health Plan is going to increase 2.6%. Garden State Plan is increasing 12.2%, which is where they get the 6.3 if you average all those together. The Garden State Health Plan was underfunded as it missed the last renewal cycle, and still very few people are actually in that plan anyway. So with all this being said, we're anticipating more and more people to move to the educators plan because they do not share in the increase in premium with the pay based on salary. So with the large increase to the 10 and 15 plan, more and more people will start to continue to move. And so I know I keep talking about Chapter 78 versus Chapter 44, but the New Jersey Direct 10 and 15 plan is the only plan that remains on the Chapter 78, which is a contribution of the premium. So the employee shares in that cost, whereas the educator and Garden State plan is based on salary. It has nothing to do with the increase. So with that being said, on to, oh, forgive my big elevator. So this picture was relatively early. That area with the background, that's Plumber Bill's back. Sorry about that.
Before you do, can you just shorten why we did this?
Sure. So we have seen over the past several years an increase number of early interventions that our child study team is receiving, which means that they have 90 days to place these children into preschool classrooms. And so we have run out of seats yet again. So this is,
For the public, can you talk about the age of the children, when they come to us, and
Why
what
we don't
early
know.
intervention is, for anybody who's watching who is not familiar with that?
And why we don't know.
Right, why we don't know.
so early intervention is services that children receive before the age of 3. They then notify the child study team 90 days before their 3rd birthday because they are eligible to come to us or an out-of-district placement if we don't have the proper placement for them here on their 3rd birthday. So, and the child study team has 90 days to conduct all of their evaluations and IEP and everything to get them placed in a very short period of time, and we need to be ready to accept all of these young students.
What makes
Very
this
worse.
3-year-old, like why this child and not any other 3-year-old?
These are students that have IEPs and have all sorts of different diagnoses, but this preschool is going to be an IBC classroom. We do have Over the Moon that is a less intensive program, but this is going to be an IBC similar to the IBC class that opened in the Gibbs Elementary School in January of 2022. So this was formerly a science classroom that wasn't really being utilized for science after they brought in the different science programs. I can't really speak to that, but they were this space wasn't really being utilized as a science room. So
Because there was only one room in the whole school, so we weren't going to a science room to do science, we were doing science in our classrooms, so it was not being used.
So what made it a good place for preschool though was because it was formerly science that it had the shower. And so the tie-in for plumbing wasn't as difficult. However, so this is what it looked like, and I had to, oh wait, it didn't update on here.
Maybe refresh it, do like a Control R, yeah.
Yeah,
There you go.
oh, you're right, this thing is terrible.
Oh, the map.
So this is one of our tunnels underneath, and I couldn't find the plumber. And I'm radioing him, he's not answering. And he was in the tunnel sitting on an egg carton,
Look at the
tying into one of the lines. And so it was a lot further than we first anticipated. And so he was down in this tunnel. Here's a close-up of the egg carton, but it's really not much room to work. And so I thought that you guys would appreciate sort of the detail in which these guys are sort of working. This was the initial framing that happened of the bathroom. The windows were actually, in the initial drawings, were supposed to be removed, but we instead put protection and frosted the windows so we could keep them for ventilation and all sorts of things. So that remained. This is what the classroom, that's the bathroom in the far corner, that's the big renovation. The entire classroom was also painted. This is all the furniture that we've had in the district. So we didn't need to purchase anything. We've just gotten all this furniture from different places. This is again a close-up of the bathroom. They really do such great work, the maintenance crew here. And they all work together to sort of get this done. This is the inside of the bathroom, the handicap, it's all ADA compliant with all the handicap accessories. The toilet is definitely close to the floor, but that is the preschool. We actually, now that I'm looking at this, probably need, the sink is low, but we're gonna need a step stool affixed to the floor, because they are really tiny little 3-year-olds. See, you can see the windows, there's no way to see in or out of that, and then along that wall is one of the handicap ramps. It's another one of the red shirts or maintenance, admiring the work after it was done. And that's all the pictures I had to share.
And so this classroom is right as we speak, this week and into next, right? Being officially ready for our little friends. Our teacher started with us this week. She came from another district.
I think she starts on Friday.
Oh, they started Friday?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was thinking it was the
20th.
18th. Okay. And we'll be spending some time with the preschool teacher at Gibbs. And we will have all hands on deck to help her get this beautiful classroom ready. We have everything that we need for the classroom. That's what's important. It's just a matter of, making it perfect for the little ones. So we're really excited.
And I do have to say, when we had most of the materials already on site. So the cost of this was very low to the budget. We did have to buy a toilet and a sink and some fixtures. But other than that, we had everything, maybe some drywall. But it was really all the materials already on site.
And I believe we have 4 students for this class, right?
Correct, which leaves I don't know how many seats are available
either,
in each class, but that students are being moved. Basically, anyone who should be attending Berkeley and
As their
attends
neighborhood
Gibbs
school.
or DEO is being moved to the Berkeley Street Elementary School preschool program, so that hopefully there's a continuation for them there and they're in their home school. But that does open some seats in all of 3 preschool programs, IVC, but I am pretty sure those will be full by the
end of the year. Because you only have 90 days to know who else is coming.
Correct.
The exterior door in the picture too opens up right to the kindergarten playground.
Oh, that's true.
So those
Yes.
kids can access that and play with their peers.
Yes, it's very exciting.
I'm just gonna
You
say
get a discount for the
Yes.
small.
Andrew has a question.
Yes.
No, everything that's smaller costs more.
Yeah.
You know the rules.
Yes, which is the higher intervention, but I don't know what that,
So
IVC.
IVC.
In a bridge crossing. It's for students with autism
Okay.
or on the autism spectrum.
Any questions?
Actually, one more. Back to the benefits, the 12.2%, 11%.
Yeah, I know, we keep going back to it too, it just doesn't change.
Is there a cost, is there a number that is, comparative from last year to this year of, like, for a percentage of
So-
exactly how much now that you have the sense of how much more of the benefits are gonna cost? the district?
So October is open enrollment, so right now everyone is making their selections into which plan. And so, October 31st is the last day to make these elections, and so then it becomes, time to figure that out. So I don't really know right now because it's gonna depend on the change, but I think last year we had about 75 employees move from direct 10 or 15 to a lesser plan, with the majority of them going to educators. So we had the significant move happen last year, but there's still enough. And then out of the new hires, all but one is already in the educators plan. Only one came to us and was eligible for 10 or 15. We'll be able to answer that better at the next meeting, or
Okay.
probably more like December.
Yep.
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any liaison board committee reports? No. Any correspondence?
None this evening.
Okay. Open to the public for items on the agenda as outlined in the Milford Board of Education bylaw 0167. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes. I seek a motion. Tony Alvarado, seconded by Paige Ryan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any questions on the agenda from the public? Okay. I seek a motion to close. Paige Ryan, seconded by Stephanie Coffinger. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I seek a motion for board action for BA 23-24.22.23.24.25.26. Need a second? Cheryl Calderon, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Educational Programs and Curriculum Committee, Stephanie Coffinger.
I make a motion to seek approval for C 23-24.14, .15, .16, and .17. I need a second.
Kay Dryan,
Yeah.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Personnel recommendations, having the recommendation of the superintendent, I make a motion for P 22-23.127, .163, .26, actually P 23-24.26, .33, .34, .37, .38, .43, .46, .47, .48, .49, .50, .51, .52, .53, .54, .55, .56, .57. I need a second. Stephanie Coffinger. All in favor? This says go. Okay, roll call.
Mr. Albro?
Yes.
Ms. Calderon?
Yes.
Ms. Coffinger?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardi?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Vice President Dunn?
Yes.
President Gomez?
Yes. Finance and Facilities Committee, Kay Bryan.
I make a motion for approval for F 22-23.222, F 23-24.69, .75, .76, .77, .78, .79, .80, .81, .82, .83, .84, .85, .86, .87, .88, .89, .90, .91, .92, .93, .94, .95, and .96.
Cheryl Calderon, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Athletics Co-Curricular Committee, Nicole Dunn.
I seek a motion for AC 23-24.5, .6, .7, and .8. And like I mentioned last night, I would like to thank the coaches for volunteering their time for these sports.
Any second? Kay Dryan, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Policy Committee, Anthony Albro.
I seek a motion tonight for first reading of the following policies, regulations. Policy 0144, Policy and Regulation 2520, Policy 3217, Policy 4217, Policy 5305, Policy 5308, and Regulation 5308, Policy 5310, Regulation 5310, Policy 6112, Regulation 6115.01, Policy 6115.04, Policy 6311, Policy 7440, and abolishment of Policy 9100, Policy 9140, and an abolishment of Regulation 9140.
I need a second. Nicole Dunn, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any old business? Any new business? Okay, open to the public, as outlined in the Milford Board of Education bylaw 0167. Each statement made participant shall be limited to 3 minutes. I need a second. Okay, Dryan, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Does anyone in the public have anything, any questions? Okay, I make a motion to close to the public, seconded by Tony Alvaro. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Board member request for additional information. Okay, I make a motion to adjourn. Need a second. Stephanie Coffinger, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next meeting will be November 14th. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.